Well, you can do better than that.
Morning.
People regale know why I said that. I'm making fun of myself. So, thank you all for being here this morning. This is, I hope you're here for the State Board of Education meeting for the month of February. If not, bye. But we thank you for being here this morning for the February meeting. And I'm going to turn it over to Scott Johnson, who is going to introduce our speaker today for the invocation, inspiration, and to lead us in the pledge. So, Scott, I'll leave it with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members. It's my honor to be with you again and be a part of this wonderful board. And it is our pleasure to have Kevin Paul Scott with us today. Some of you may remember, maybe 4 years ago, Kevin spoke to us at our board retreat. And I know if you were there, that you remember a dynamic presentation. And I thought it would be great to bring Kevin to the board meeting again, or to board meeting for the first time, actually, and join us and give us some an inspirational word this morning. Kevin's traveled to 6 continents and spoke to leaders from more than 100 countries. Kevin co-founded a leadership consultancy, ADO. What does that stand for now again?
Latin for inspired.
Latin for inspired, that's right. Do that. Kevin co-founded the leadership consultancy ADO, which is Latin for inspire, and for many years, ADO was the #1 small business best place to work in Atlanta, and it still is, I think, as a matter of fact. ADO developed the National Chick-fil-A Leader Academy program, the Baltimore Ravens Leadership Institute, and helps companies attract and develop top talent. Kevin's the author of 3 books. I've read them all. And the latest is called The Lens, a great book on leadership. Kevin's, you might have seen him on CNN, Fox News, maybe even MSNBC, but I don't ever watch that. And today, we're honored to have him come here to speak with us. Kevin, would you lead us in inspiration today in prayer?
Thank you so much. Thank you. Let's pray. God, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Thank you for the people in this room, and God, their passion for students in this state. And God, I pray that you'd give them wisdom, you'd give them discernment, and God, you would help the individuals in this room that are passionate about education to further the impact on students in our state. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I don't know about you guys. I originally got into working with education because I wanted to make a difference in the lives of children. I feel like that's why we all get involved and excited at the beginning, every single one of us. We are excited about it, and we're getting to make that impact, and then a lot of times, then we start to have to deal with some challenges. Anybody dealt with any challenges? Probably none over the last couple of years. But a lot of times that shifts the way we think about things. And I've been fascinated lately, Mr. Chairman, about this concept of perspective, of how when we see things differently, it impacts a lot of what we do. All right, a little participation for us to start. How many of you have been to the eye doctor in the last year in here? Raise your hand. Okay, a lot of you. Who likes going to the eye doctor? Anybody? Some people do. It's not like, if I said the dentist, it's, you know, dentists get a bad rap sometimes. People don't want to get their teeth worked out. Most people like the eye doctor. My wife made me go to the eye doctor recently because she told me if I didn't go, she and the kids were not riding in the car with me anymore. So I had to go, and if you know it, they do something like this. They put these giant lenses down in front of you. You guys know what I'm talking about? They put this eye chart on the wall. You guys see it? And then they'll switch the lenses, and they'll say something like this. All right, is it better or worse? A or B? You guys know what I'm talking about? 1 or 2? 1 or 2. It is stressful because you feel like you know you just want the right prescription, but you also don't want to be wrong. So you try to like pretend like you know ones you don't know. When I was there the last time, the eye doctor said, "Is it worse or worser?" And I said, "It's worser." And he's like, "That's not even a word." I'm like, "Well, you gave me the option." So, but here's what's crazy. The chart on the wall doesn't change. The lens with which we look through changes, and so it causes us to see things differently. All right, let's do another one. Maybe you guys have seen this before. How many of you seen this picture before? Raise your hand. All right, we're going to just figure it out. We got some of the leaders in education in our state in this room, so we'll do a little test. How many of you see the older lady? Raise your hand. Older lady, we got a couple. All right, how many see the younger lady? Raise your hand. Okay, who's going to be honest in here? How many of you do not see both? Okay, we'll do extra credit afterwards if somebody needs it. If you don't see both, just imagine there's a younger lady looking kind of off back to the side. There's an older lady looking down. Here's the crazy thing. The guy who drew this, he was not very popular at his house at the holidays. He called this drawing My Wife and My Mother-in-Law. Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal. But here's the thing. We're all looking at the same thing, but we're seeing it differently. All right, one more, and I'll move on. This was a Facebook controversy a number of years ago. People don't know what color is the dress. All right, how many of you see black and blue? Raise your hand. Okay. Hands down. How many of you see white and gold? Raise your hand. Okay, isn't this crazy? We're in the same room looking at the same screen, and we see something different. That's right, Helena. You know, don't you think about that sometimes? It's Republicans and Democrats. We're looking at the same problem, but we're seeing it differently. Teachers versus administrators, looking at the same problem, seeing it differently. Community members, we're looking at the same thing and seeing it differently, and perspective is so important because how we view things changes how we do things. The way we view things changes how we do things. This is interesting. Perspective is the only thing in the world that can radically transform the results we get without altering a single element of our environment. Meaning, a student, think about this, a student can struggle in school and then have a different perspective, and they walk back in and all of a sudden everything changes for them just because their perspective shifts. For those of you who like formulas, I was not as good at these subjects in school, but I say it this way, a change in perspective leads to a change in actions, which equals a change in results. How we view things changes how we do things, which changes the results we get. And I want to just challenge you with one area today, maybe to think about shifting your perspective. And for me, it's shifting my perspective on progress. Okay, and I'm very intentional to use the word progress because I was with an executive at Chick-fil-A, and he told me, he said, everybody's obsessed with the word change now. We're changing, we got to change. And he said, we really need to audit change because he said this, he said, all progress is change, but not all change is progress. So all progress is change. We need to be talking about progress. We need progress for students. We need progress for teachers. We need progress. We don't always necessarily need change. We need to make sure we're auditing it. But even if we have progress, do you know there's some people who don't like progress? It's true. And some people don't like the side effects of progress. Now let me give you this story, and then we'll say the pledge, and I'll get out of your way and let you get down to business. I love leadership books, and I was asking somebody one day, I said, give me a great leadership book that I should be reading. Is there something new out? Is there something I should be looking at? And they said, well, I'll tell you what I'd encourage you to do. I'd go to the book of Proverbs in the Bible, and whatever day of the month it is, read that chapter of the book of Proverbs. Have you ever done that before? It's fascinating. I hadn't done it, and I went through it, and man, I'm telling you, some of it was gold. I was like, where there's no vision, the people perish. I mean, that's good right there. So no vision, people are dying. Like, we got to have some vision. That was good. But I got to tell you, some of it I didn't understand. I grew up in Cobb County, Georgia, went to public school, went to the University of Georgia. And there was this verse in Proverbs 14, it's Proverbs 14:4 that says this, where there are no oxen, the manger is clean, but abundant crops come by the strength of the ox. Okay. We're going to just one more time. Where's my Metro Atlanta people in this room? Raise your hand. Okay. Hands down. Where's some South Georgia people in the room? Okay.
We have some ag people.
Now, I'm going to tell you, I didn't understand this verse where I lived, but I married a girl from McRae, Georgia. She was in the FFA in high school. She's in her 30s. She's still got the jacket to prove it. She loves it. I mean, she had a job in high school I didn't know existed. Her job was to show pigs. But we didn't have that in Cobb County. And I'll tell you, I spent time with some of her family, and I began to understand this verse. Now, I want you to see this for those of you that need some translation. It's really painting the picture of two farms. On the first farm, there are no animals, there are no oxen, so the manger is clean. Some versions say the barn or the stable. So no animals. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this at a state board meeting. There's no animals, so there's no crap that's got to be cleaned up. That's not King James, but that's what it's saying in there. No animals, no crap. All right. Then it says there's another farm, and on this farm, abundant crops come, and they're coming by the strength of the ox. So on this farm, there's progress being made. There's harvest. There's abundance, and they're coming because there's an animal there that's doing the work. All right. What it doesn't say, but it implies, on that farm, somebody's got to grab a shovel, because there's some side effects of that progress. Somebody's got to do that. And think about the power of perspective, because I just wonder sometimes if the people in education in this room, a lot of the work you do is not always glamorous. It's tough work. In fact, a lot of times it looks like grabbing a shovel, because sometimes the agenda, it looks like it's full of crap. But I'm going to tell you, if your perspective every day is the mess you got to deal with, that's one perspective. But if every day you grab a shovel because you have the opportunity to impact students and impact teachers and change the trajectory of the lives of kids in our state, it changes our perspective. If every day I wake up and I say, this is an opportunity, this is a side effect of growth and progress that's happening. Because I'm going to tell you, you'll hear a lot of discouraging things, but there's some amazing things happening in education in this state. There's some positive things. There's a lot of movement. It is unbelievable, some of the good things that are happening, and there's some side effects of those, and I just want to encourage you to keep having that right perspective. All right, didn't grow up on a farm, but I learned enough to know this. That crap they shovel in one season, they use that as fertilizer in the next season, which tells me that the junk I'm dealing with now may be a catalyst for growth in the future. Some of the greatest challenges you're facing now may be the very thing that if we can solve together makes a difference for the future of our kids in the state. And so I'm just thankful for what you guys do, every single one of you in this room, how you care about students, how you impact lives. And my hope is that today you go back with a different perspective, that you'll view things differently and do things differently. And I believe if we do that, we get different results. So just remember, how we view things changes how we do things. And with that, I'd love to ask you guys to stand so we can do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you guys so much.
Kevin, thank you. Appreciate that, and thank you for joining us today. We have a few guests who are here today, and I apologize if I overlook anyone. If I do, after I've read off the list that I have here, please introduce yourself. Of course, we had Kevin and Heather from, is it Addo or Otto? Addo from Addo. But thank you again for your words of inspiration, Kevin. We've got Jennifer Butler from Morgan County CTAE. Victoria Thomas from Muskogee County, CTAE. Y'all welcome. Deborah, is it Larry? Yes. From Newton County, CTAE. Deanna Harper and Cree Aiken from Hall County Schools, CTAE. Thank you all for coming. We've got Dale and Kimberly Alexander. We're going to hear from Dale in a little bit. Thank you for coming today. We've got Roger Fitzpatrick from Mountain Education. Thank you, sir. We have Kedrone Harris. Did I say that right, or did I butcher it? Kedron. All right. From Harris Calhoun County High. We've got Bethany Gilliam, who is the GACTE president, and from Bullitt County Schools. Thank you for being here today. Marcus Pollard, GVATA president, Young Farmer in Newton County. Nelson McCracken, GVATA past president from Murray County. Thank you for coming. We've got Kimberly Shirk, President Emeritus from Georgia Federation of Republican Women. Thank you for coming. We've got Nanette Barnes, CTAE Director, Richmond County Schools. Thank you for coming. Josh Davis, CTAE Director, Union County Schools. We have a lot of CTA people here today. Are we having a presentation or something?
Yeah.
There we are. I know. We've got Angela Palm from Georgia School Boards Association. Thank you for coming. Lisa Morgan from Georgia Association of Educators. I believe we'll be hearing from you shortly. Thank you for coming. Joe Fleming from GAE as well. Thank you. Greg Arnsdorf, Senior Director, Cognia. Thank you for coming, sir. Josh Stevens from Page. Josh, good to see you. Thanks for coming. We have Greg Griffin, State Auditor. I believe we'll be hearing from Greg here in a little bit. Thank you for coming, sir. Christina Turner, Deputy State Auditor as well. Thank you for coming. Kevin, and we've got Kevin and Heather from was there anyone I missed? And if so, if you would please stand and say hey to the crew. Doesn't look like I missed anyone. Okay, good. All right. We are going to move on to the public hearing portion of the meeting. And this is a public hearing on State Board Rule 160-4-3.14, the work-based learning programs. And we had one person who signed up to speak, and that is Miss Lisa Morgan from Georgia Association of Educators. Miss Morgan, if you would come up to the podium, and we will set a timer for you. You will have 3 minutes to speak, and we will start the timer whenever you're ready.
Good morning. I am Lisa Morgan. I am a kindergarten teacher, a veteran teacher of 23 years in Georgia's public schools, and the current president of the Georgia Association of Educators. This morning, I do want to start by addressing the rule on work-based learning programs, because this is something that's very important for our students. We all know the importance of our children not only being college ready, but career ready, because we all truly understand that college is not what every student will do when they finish their high school career. Many of them, a career is the choice that they will make for their future. And for many of them, in fact, that is the best choice for them and their families, and we should be supporting that choice. On the other hand, you are going to be considering another item today, and I would recommend to the board that you consider allowing public comment on other items on your agenda each month. Currently, you only hear from the public when you're considering a rule change, but you make a great many decisions that impact educators and students, and you do so without the opportunity for public comment. One of those issues is extending the strategic waiver contracts today. And I would suggest to you that there should have been community input, not only at the state board level, but at the local level on extending these contracts. When our local boards made the decision 5, 6, 7 years ago, whether they would become a strategic waiver system or a charter system, they were required to have community input. I personally spoke at each meeting when DeKalb County was making that decision. Now we are extending these without community input, and we are considering the evaluation in 2 years, once again without a mechanism to hear from the community and our parents. We have students through their entire elementary career, and by the time we get to 2 years from now, also their middle school has been under the waivers. And we don't know, and we haven't asked the community, do you want us to continue this? Or should we return to waivers only being granted by special application for a specific need? Currently, the waiver program is evaluated based on CCRPI. Correlation of waivers to increase in CCRPI is not causation. We believe all students deserve a caring, committed, qualified teacher and a class size that allows them to receive the one-on-one instruction and attention necessary to meet their needs. Is that happening with the current waiver system? I would say no, not in all cases. And if the waivers aren't reflecting the needs of our students, why are we continuing them? The waivers are also not helping our educators. A recent poll showed that 55% of educators are considering retiring early or leaving the profession. We must do everything we can to take away some of that stress and reduce the workload so our teachers can remain in the classroom for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. Seeing that no one else has signed up, that will conclude public hearing and comment on the state board rule. So we will move forward and move on to our committee of the whole and begin building our agenda. And I will start with the budget committee, and I call upon Mr. Chairman Matt Donaldson.
Chairman, the Budget Committee met yesterday and moved that items 1 through 7 be placed on the consent agenda.
1 through 7 from budget will be placed on the consent agenda. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We will move on to rules committee items, and I will call on Chairman Benepetti.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Rules Committee met yesterday. Items 1 and 2 moved to the consent agenda. Item 3 we pulled for a separate vote.
Items 1 and 2 to consent, 3 will be a separate vote.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. I will call upon Chairman Scott Sweeney, or you got the report? Okay, for the charter.
Chairman Downey, committee recommends that items 1 through 6 be moved to the consent agenda.
Items 1 through 6, consent agenda. Thank you, sir. And as far as executive session items, Mr. Benton, are you with us?
Yep, I'm here. Hello, everyone. Sorry, I'm not present. I got fighting a little stomach bug.
Uh-oh.
Thank you.
Thank you for not being here.
Good to hear your voice.
Absolutely. I'd like to make a recommendation to move the following to the consent agenda. The individual student waivers, the minutes of the January 12th, 2022 executive session meeting, the minutes of the January 12th and 13th, 2022 state board meeting, and the February 2022 personnel report. And last but not least, the 2022 legal report. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other items that we have omitted or that need to be placed on the consent agenda, or any other business that should be placed that we've overlooked? Yes.
For rules, did you, I believe it's item one.
Yes.
Okay. Item 1 is pulled for separate vote, but 2 and 3 are consent. Okay. 1, 2, and 3. All right. Thank you for that. All right. At this time, we will convene. We will build our agenda. We'll take a 10-minute recess. We'll be back at 9:35. All right, we'll call the meeting back to order. It looks like you have a consent agenda that has been placed before you. If you would review that, if not, and do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. We'll move on to, I'm sorry, Deontay?
Yes.
We pulled one item from rules for a separate vote, and that is the state board rule. So I will ask Ms. Petty if she would like to introduce that and the discussion that we can have on that item.
The State Board Rule 160-4-3-.14, work-based learning programs. This was to amend the age from 16 to 15 for work-based learning students in the state. And great promise partnership.
Is there any discussion that anyone from the board would like to
Second.
I
You have a second?
I hadn't asked for, it's just been.
You're in
just having
discussion. Yeah, you
Okay.
need first and a second.
Motion.
I know, I understand. Just ask if there's any discussion before we have the motion. All right, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, passes. All right, we will move on to, it looks like the superintendent's report.
Okay, we'll start off. We do have like you noticed, a lot of people from CTAE, so Dr. Wall, we'll turn that little program over to you today.
Thank you, Superintendent Woods and Chairman Downey and board members. Thank you for allowing me to have some time today to talk a little bit about some of the improvements that we've been working on in career tech and ag education this year. I think we have a PowerPoint that's going to be coming up in just a few minutes, or maybe I'm supposed to do that with this clicker, is that right? Yeah, look there. I don't know why it's on two and not the others, but that's okay. All right, there are a couple of improvements that I want to talk to you about today. We've got several that we could spend hours and days on, and invite me back and I'll talk about some other things. But today I want to talk about our career tech and ag education pathways and our professional learning and some things that we've done to improve those too. With our career tech and ag education pathways, we've continued some work that we began a few years ago, helping local districts to create locally developed pathways that will help meet the needs of business and industry in particular communities. The most recent one that we brought for your approval a few months ago was the Heavy Equipment Operations Pathway. This is a pathway that there was a lot of interest out of South Georgia, Vidalia City and Toombs County. You've heard about that, and there's some great work that's going to be taking place with that particular pathway over the next year or so. It looks like we may have some funding in the budget for some great equipment, some simulators for those programs. The electric vehicle pathway is a pathway that we announced that we were going to get started on once Rivian was coming to Georgia. We've had a lot of interest in that area from business and industry. We've had contacts from Easy Go Golf Cart to call and say, hey, we want to help with that pathway. We've had different school districts that have volunteered to assist with the work of that electric vehicle pathway, so we're excited about doing that. But with all of our pathways, we try to make sure that those pathways are meeting business and industry needs. We have a new course that is another embedded credit course. This is very similar to some courses that we did a few years ago. Essentials of Healthcare can also count as anatomy and physiology. Now we have public management and administration. A student can get credit for a career tech course as well as one of their social studies credits. So it's a great 2-for-1 deal, and that is very new, hot off the press. Our middle school courses in career tech and ag education have been revised, so they are updated and feed into our high school work. We've got, I think, one more set to bring to you, and we're scheduled to bring those to you next month, and those are in the area of construction for our middle school programs. It's so important to have strong middle school programs to serve as those feeder programs to high school. It just makes our high school programs stronger. We also have started some work, with the elementary school, and creating some opportunities for students to learn about careers there. This is the third year of the pilot program in ag elementary at the elementary level, ag education. And we've had a lot of great things that have taken place, and look to continue that good work with the ag elementary programs. With our courses, and I mentioned this to y'all at the state board retreat, that we were looking at entrepreneurship and creating some opportunities there. During COVID, entrepreneurship opportunities just expanded. And we know and have always known that with all of our career tech courses, that there are opportunities for entrepreneurship. So what we have done is created an entrepreneurship framework. I want to show you a little bit of that. This framework can be used in any career tech and ag education course that we offer. Actually, what it is a series of 3 lessons. The first lesson is the startup. How do you get started with entrepreneurship? That particular lesson lasts about 20 minutes, so it's not a real long lesson, but it's a great lesson. It can be incorporated into the first course of any career tech pathway. So students can look at opening up an entrepreneurship in whatever area they're focused in. It could be an ag entrepreneurship opportunity, a construction, it could be cosmetology, it could be food science, whatever area they're looking at, they could start up an entrepreneurship. So they get started in that first course. In the second course, the teacher has another course that can be, not a course, it's actually a unit, that could be incorporated into the second course, and that's working on the business model canvas, where they learn a little bit more, and all of this work builds on each other. And then by the third course, they can do the emerging entrepreneurship, and that's the finalization of an entrepreneurship opportunity. There's a lot of guest speakers worked into this. There are some opportunities for job shadowing, work-based learning, and so forth and so on. We are expanding our work-based learning to provide more opportunities, and one area we're looking at is to have the entrepreneurship area. So I'm envisioning that a student that goes through and they complete these 3, they would have a good plan to where they could actually try that entrepreneurship out in a work-based learning setting while they're in high school. So we're really excited about this work, and I thank you, Ms. Zoller, for connecting us with the Jobs Creator Network. We made the contact there that you gave us, and Alfredo Ortez delegated 2 of his staff members to help with this work. We also got an idea from Ms. Petty over there with Junior Achievement. They helped with this work, and you'll see several others, Georgia Chamber. We've got the University of Georgia Small Business. We also have Georgia Tech, so we don't want to show any partiality between the 2, although the dogs are number 1. But this entrepreneurship framework is ready to rock and roll for our students and teachers to use next fall. Our teachers are they've just heard that this is coming about, and they've not seen any of this yet. This is hot off the press, and I think it's very timely and is going to be some great opportunities for our students. We are developing an entire 3-course pathway on entrepreneurship. That's in the works, and again, some of these same people are working on that along with our local career tech teachers. But that'll be an in-depth study in entrepreneurship. So that's pretty exciting. One other improvement I want to talk to you a little bit about is professional learning. Many times you as board members have asked about professional learning. What do you offer? How do you know it's quality? Is it really good? And we always say, we offer X number of workshops and we have all these people that come. And I've heard y'all say, it's kind of more than just about numbers. How do you know it's good quality that you're offering? This profile of a Georgia CTAE graduate is something that we've worked on for the past several months. And this should help improve our professional learning. SREB helped facilitate this work, and many different folks throughout Georgia from our local school districts assisted with this work, as well as our staff too. What we did, we wanted to determine what characteristics we expect career tech and ag education students to have when they graduate. So here they are in front of you, and you've got the brochure. We expect students who are career tech and ag education graduates to be workplace ready. We expect them to demonstrate academic and technical skills. We expect them to communicate effectively, solve problems creatively, collaborate purposefully, and act responsibly. So if those are the things that we are expecting them to do, are we making sure that our professionals are getting the training that they need that can help with these characteristics? On the front of your brochure, you see that this is a profile of a graduate, but if you look around that graduate, there's 3 different people there: your teacher, the counselor, and the administrators. All 3 of those folks really can help impact the student in many different ways so that they do have these characteristics. If you open your booklet up on the inside to the Workplace Ready section, I just want you to see how this book is set up. On the left side, we've got the student indicators and the student's evidence of attainment for this particular characteristic, be workplace ready. And then on the right side, we've taken each of the 3 groups that impact these students so much, like your administrators, counselors, and teachers, and we've identified different actions or different best practices that those teachers could be involved in that would impact this particular characteristic in a positive way. So one of the next things that we're doing is taking a look at the professional learning that we typically offer through our resource network, CTERN, and look at those and kind of divide them into these categories. Where do they fit? Why are we offering this particular type of professional learning? We want to see if there's some gaps in some of these areas that we may need to look at adding some training that we haven't had before. Another piece of this profile that we're working on is professional learning communities. We are having some small groups that will start the professional learning community process through getting a good handle on what's going on in these 6 different characteristic areas. We want to find out, some best practices in Georgia, what's going on in the schools, and just sharing. That's one thing we do as educators is that, we find somebody that's doing something really great, and we say, oh, that might work in my system, and tweak it a little bit and change it, and it's all about sharing, and that's what the professional learning communities will be. We've made a lot of improvements in Georgia career tech and ag education, and just highlighted 2 of those that we've worked on recently for you today. But if somebody were to ask me what is the best improvement that we've made in Georgia career tech and ag over the last few years, without hesitation, I would have to say the business and industry engagement is the norm, not the exception, in our career tech and ag education programs across Georgia. And that's not something that I can just stand up here and say. That's something I have experienced, my staff has experienced. And we have done this mainly through 2 ways, visits and phone calls. When we go into the school districts, and we do, and we are so excited to get back in those systems, we see that engagement piece. It's not just business people showing up because they're having something going on that day. You can carry on a conversation with them and tell they are truly engaged in the work that's going on in that school. So kudos to our local folks that have worked with their local business and industry to make that connection stronger than it's been. When we go for economic development visits, MRA visits, open houses, ribbon cutting, we do see all of that. When we look at the social media that's posted from the various schools, we see that connection. And when we get calls from business and industry, it is so exciting when they call and want us to help them with their workforce, like we're going to do down in Jekyll Island next in a couple of weeks. We'll be down there working on the hospitality industry with some of our school districts and the hospitality industry down there. It's exciting work. When they're calling us for new pathways or calling us to sit on panels to talk about what's going on in career tech, we know that engagement piece is there and is real. Thank you so much for all you do to support career tech and ag education throughout Georgia. You've got just a little snippet of the quality folks at the local level here with us today. Can't say enough great things about the work that's going on in their systems. So thank you so much.
Real quick, can you get your folks to stand up, please?
Yes, would all the career tech folks in the room stand up? Staff. They are passionate educators who add some extra energy to this meeting today.
Well, and I just wanted to say also that, especially in those areas of hospitality and healthcare and welding and others, that because of the labor shortage that we've got in those areas, these students have a unique ability, probably a once-in-a-generation opportunity to really advance quickly.
Yes.
Not only in responsibility, but financially and other ways. And that's why this is so important. This is really, I'm really hopeful this is once in a century problem that we have because of all the things we've been through in the last couple of years, but this is a real opportunity for our students.
I agree with you. You know, the worker shortage right now is a great opportunity for career tech as a whole, but especially for our work-based learning program. And thank all of y'all for different connections y'all keep making for us.
Can I say something? Barbara, I just want to say thank you to you and to all the group. From a daughter of an FFA teacher, I certainly understand the importance, and that has been a while. But also, that just you're one of those that projects out, and you kind of have a vision of where things would like to be.
We would perish if we didn't. Didn't we hear that at the beginning of the meeting today?
Yeah, like you do, and you meet the needs of students where they are, and I think that's what is so important about CTAE. And you're open, and you're collaborative, and your teachers are too. I had the experience of speaking to LEAD, and everyone there was just so interested in doing what was right for kids and finding things that were right to motivate kids to be interested in staying in school and taking their career further. So thanks to all of you who work in CTAE, and thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wall.
Just very quickly, again, I want to say thank you to all of our educators and members of the CTA team that's here. To be honest, you will not find a better group of people in the nation.
Richard, it's a national model.
Yeah.
There's.
I think I appreciate Dr. Wall. Like I said, she was one of the first hires that we were able to bring on when we came on. I think even before I was sworn in, she just happened to bump into me down on the 15th floor where I was, and even prior to the interview, we had about a 2-hour conversation. So after that, it was clear this was the person we had to have. So again, Dr. Wall, appreciate your leadership. You will not find, again, I think, or I would say I know, Georgia has the best CTA director in the nation, so I appreciate that. And I will say we have the best CTA staff in the nation as well. That's why, I think I always put the charge. I said I love when the other 49 states are fighting for number 2, because we know that that we have the best here. So again, appreciate the work you've done and the opportunities that you can continue to expand for all of our kids throughout the state.
Okay, all right. We will move on to the chair's report, and I would like to take a moment to introduce Mr. Greg Griffin from the Georgia Department of Audits, who's going to speak to us briefly, kind of give us an overview of our responsibilities and a little bit about audits itself.
Well, I mean, Greg, we didn't, Greg, come on. Today's not really that formal on that. I wanted to get Greg to come up and just join us, and really because we know there's a lot going on with audits and with our federal funds, and I know we have a lot of districts that are very anxious, I guess would be an understatement, on where we are, what the state is doing, how do we work with our audit process and the money. And what I just really wanted to do today was, and Greg was gracious enough to come over and work with us. We didn't have an audit committee meeting this month, but we will be having one next month. And one of the things we're really trying to do, and we wanted to show and talk about, is we understand that apprehension and that angst is going on with some of the districts and coming up in the audit and the use of federal funds. I just wanted to let folks know that we are communicating. We are working, our audit committee and our state board is working with Greg's office, and I want to say thank you to our DOE office. And we're communicating. Matt Cardoza, I know, had to leave to actually get on a call on this very issue right now. And Superintendent Woods and their staff is working very diligently with US Ed to try to get guidance on where we are, what is, how the funds are being allocated, where they're being categorized, and what's being used. So I'm probably stealing a lot of Greg's thunder right now, but I wanted to just really invite Greg here, show that we are, and we hear you, we know what's going on, and we're trying to figure it out as well. I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but if it's US Ed, it's convenient to do it. But the guidance has been very, very difficult for our state DOE, our state Department of Education. It's been a moving target. We've got a lot of different things that have come out of Washington on what is acceptable, what's not acceptable, yes or no, and it's even changed during the pandemic. And we've got now three rounds of funds, and there's different rules that come with each round of funding. So we are working together, we're collaborating together, and going to try to, and at the end of the day, we might not be able to have anything clear. And probably, knowing what I know about this process the last 2 years, it'll probably be clear as mud when we get to the end, but we're trying to work diligently on that. I think, Greg, you've had some even meetings since the last time we talked.
That's correct.
Okay. Can you just give us an update, you, and just briefly on that?
Yeah, I can do that. And again, just want to let you know, we recognize the challenges that we're all facing with the lack of clarity around the guidance that's come down from Washington. Just to let you know, Mike and I have been talking, and we are committed to continue to work with all of our stakeholders, be it Department of Ed, our clients, and trying to come to some common ground and understanding of the various issues. We've been working since last May trying to get additional guidance. We saw this coming, and we've reached out to US Ed. I meet monthly with the OIG community for the Department of Ed. I've been doing that now for over a year. They, too, the OIG community, has been trying to seek guidance because they will ultimately conduct audits as well. And they're as frustrated as the rest of us are in terms of the lack of guidance. I reached out, even as of yesterday, there was a meeting between the OIGs and the Department of Ed, the program folks. And I know there's been discussion about some forthcoming additional guidance. This is the readout I got back from yesterday. They don't believe there's going to be any additional clarification and guidance. What they think the program folks are working on is they are developing a fact sheet, and that is going to provide examples of how school boards across the country are using ESSER funds. And the ETA on that was he thought they might be able to get that issued in the next couple of weeks. So, I mean, we have continued to ask for clarification. If I may, the auditors, Mike and I have talked. We're put in a position to call balls and strikes at this point. That means we've got to interpret the U.S. guidance. Our job is to issue a independent, unbiased opinion on the compliance and use of those funds. What that means, pretty succinctly, is as auditors, we're looking for documentation, and that's key. Documentation that connects or ties the use of those funds to the three-pronged test that I think everybody's heard about. That's prevent, prepare, and respond to coronavirus. Okay, and then here's the tricky part. The use of the funds were reasonable and necessary. So that brings in all sorts of subjectivity and interpretation, and that's where US Ed does not want to say yes or no, it's in or out. It's going to depend upon, we've heard multiple times, it depends on the context. We're gonna have to look at the big picture. So for an example, we have school boards that have charged their entire salaries to the ESSER funds, okay? That ultimately is not reasonable and necessary. We should be looking for incremental funds, things that were caused because of COVID. So, like, did you buy additional school buses to create social distancing? Did you buy additional supplies and cleaning supplies? Those incremental things, you can document and tie them to the three-prong test. We have worked with a number of those school boards that actually charge their salaries to COVID. We worked to find COVID-related expenses. So we've worked with a number of school boards that were, we would say, non-compliant to get them to be compliant when it comes to these funds. So we are working, we are working with the school boards that we're auditing to, again, we don't want to write findings. It's a lot of work to write a finding and go through the whole process. So we are doing our best to get out of that situation. So that's my best update at this point.
No, I appreciate that, and even one step further, Greg's office and I have been talking, and they're going to go into the next audit meeting on how to help districts on that conversion, because conversion of the funds is a lot of the fun. We're getting into the weeds a little bit, won't get much further, but just want to be clear, this is what we're trying to do to help our districts, and that if we can help them even show where to better manage or show those expenses, you turn a finding into a note, and that's where we're trying to go, and then the notes into clean audits as we get additional guidance. But I also, Superintendent Wood's office and sent a letter yesterday to US Ed, prescriptively trying to get more guidance on this as we're moving towards needing to close out these audits. So there's a lot of work behind the scenes being done. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this here in the committee, this discussion in the committee of whole today, because I know that anxiety's out there, and we've received letters from some of our districts on this, and the ones that haven't sent letters have probably called. So we're working on it, and I appreciate the cooperation, with DOE staff and our audits department, and we're working and trying.
So I have a question. When we were at our board retreat in October, Mike Long put together a fantastic panel of superintendents from these kind of very small South Georgia counties, and they brought up this issue of, being very concerned about how they spend the money, that it's not on things that they're gonna have to maintain, that it's on all of that. But they also mentioned they were trying to band together to petition, I guess, the Department of Education to extend the deadline on this money so that over time they could use more of it. So it sounds to me from what you're saying, that's not gonna be allowed unless it is directly related to COVID.
The period of performance, my understanding is that the use of the funds is going to go out for 2 to 3 years.
Like 2023, something like that.
Somewhere like, I don't have the exact date. So there are more years in the future that you can use those funds for. So,
they were talking about as far as 2028, maybe pushing it out.
I'm not exactly sure what the date is, but yes, there is the opportunity to use those funds. You don't have to pull them all down today. In fact, again, that would be non-compliance to pull all the funds down today when you don't have expenditures that tie and connect.
I know it's tricky.
But you can, yes, the guidelines are, there are multiple, it's out several years that you can still use those funds.
Okay.
We have, to extend the timeframes for those funds would require a federal legislative fix.
Okay.
We have reached out to our congressional delegations to just let them know that that's a request that districts are having, what they're having. So
thank you.
In conjunction with that, Ms. Zoller, I did speak with the undersecretary.
Yep.
With that, and I think in a few weeks I'll probably have a meeting with the secretary And I continue to ask for that, but as Dr. Taylor said, it would require legislation from Congress to extend that period.
Thank you.
So the moral of the story is more to come. We're being cognizant of it. We know that there are audits that are due, and because of various laws that are already in the books, and SB 68, the state board has shall language, and there's different things that we have to do in reporting and notes. But I just want to let all our districts and stakeholders know that we're working through this, and there are deadlines we have to meet because of legal, but our goal is to try to work with our districts and give them maximum flexibility allowed by law to our districts. So that's just not very clear right now what that is.
Can I just make one more, I guess in terms of order of magnitude, if I could do that. The ultimate determination of this is gonna require running it to the ground, doing the audit, looking at documentation at each individual school district. Looking at information that we have at a very, very high level, we estimate before we actually work with a particular school board, perhaps as few as 20% of the school districts might be in non-compliance mode. And again, that's before we go in and actually work to find expenditures that would be allowable, reasonable, necessary, that they could offset the use of those funds. So again, right now, again, high level, without looking at details, roughly about 20%. That's based on increases in fund balances and things like that that look, are like anomalies.
I've got a question, and I'm kind of trying to figure out how to. Originally, when the draw came down, it was pretty flexible on that first draw, and I guess I'm asking DOE too. And then that second and third draw, everybody thought it was going to be pretty flexible, and then we got a notice.
Administration.
Yeah.
First and second were pretty flexible.
And then the third one just was like guidance.
Conditions.
So the guidance that we sent or tried to help, are we still working on those levels of things too from that?
Continues.
Okay.
But the problem is which bucket, 1, 2, or 3, which guidance, this is a mess.
Yeah.
This is a mess. But
As we knew it would be.
again, henceforth having this discussion, and thank you, Chairman and Committee, the whole, and it not just being handled in audit committee where everybody's not, is to say we understand the significance and we're working through it, and our goal is to partner with our districts, not punish anybody.
And I think that's the message that we tell our districts, that those of us that are getting.
But we're from the government and we're here to help doesn't always go over so.
Mr. Griffin, thanks for coming again. I'm glad to see there's communication and there's trying to find some flexibility, because I've gotten the letter and I've gotten calls from the 12th district, so I'm glad that we're working on it. Hopefully there's a solution.
We will continue. We're committed to continue to work. I hope we can reach agreement that's satisfactory to everybody. There may be some instances where we have to agree to disagree, and again, there are mechanisms to work through that through the uniform guidance. So,
thank you.
But we will continue to partner and communicate, I guess, and share information. So,
thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. We appreciate our partners from all parts of the government, and we have partners here from the governor's office that are with us today, Ms. Miranda Bradford and Ms. Kristen Long, and they're just going to share a few thoughts and give us some updates.
I know.
Bradford.
I have a new last name as of recent. Well, thank y'all so much for having me today. I'm Miranda Bradford, and I'm Governor Kemp's K-12 Education Policy Advisor. So today I would like to bring an update from the Governor's Office on pending legislation. Education is a big topic this legislative session, and many great things are happening under the Gold Dome. The first bill I would like to discuss is the return to work legislation. This legislation continues Governor Kemp's commitment to a strong teacher pipeline in Georgia. The goal of this bill is to fill vacant teaching positions in high-needs areas with experienced teachers. HB 385 allows retired teachers with 30 years of credible service return to the classroom 100% of the time in high-needs areas while drawing their retirement but not accruing any more years of service. Districts employing beneficiaries must pay the TRS employer and employer share to not negatively impact the TRS fund. These retired teachers will be allowed to return to full-time instruction after 12 months from retirement. This bill benefits the retired teacher, our students especially, and the retirement system. This helps school systems fill those vacant teaching positions in high-needs areas with qualified and experienced teachers. The high-needs areas are determined for each RESA by Georgia DOE after consultation with the PSC. These are the 3 content areas where there are the greatest percentages of unfilled teaching positions in each RESA. This will ensure every area of the state has a tailored program to meet their needs. I am proud to say HB 385 has crossed over to the Senate and has had a Senate hearing in committee, so it's moving. The second bill I would like to discuss is the Governor's Parents' Bill of Rights, HB 1178 and SB 449. This idea was drafted with teachers, parents, and leaders in education around the state. It lays out the right of every parent and the role each school district must play to uphold these rights. This bill also codifies best practices for school districts while maintaining local control, which is very important. This legislation ensures parents have the right to see materials approved by the State Board of Education and locally board-approved materials, curriculum, and other education-related items that their child is using or learning about. Parents' Bill of Rights is a transparency bill for parents and a way for school systems to know their role regarding access for these important stakeholders. When parents are more involved with their students' learning, it creates a more well-rounded education experience and enhances academic progress for that student. Also, teachers benefit from parent support in the classroom. The purpose of this bill is to strengthen parents' rights in law. Currently, the law only has student records and student data as information that must be available to the parent. This puts instructional materials and other information in that same category. Secondly, this bill centralizes and streamlines the process for a parent to get information while providing an alternative to the open records route and allows access to information not currently accessible to parents under law. And lastly, it codifies parents' rights and the role of the local school system all in one place. Currently, the rights and information are all over the code, state regulations, and local regulations. This will make it easier for districts and parents to understand each of their roles. The third item I would like to discuss is the Unmask Georgia Students Act. The Unmasked Georgia Students Act reaffirms that parents are the best decision makers when it comes to the health and education of their child. SB 514 ensures that no local board of education, governing board, superintendent, or personnel of a public school system or state charter school system could impose any mandate or rule requiring students to wear a mask without an opt-out option for their parent. This bill does not take away anyone's ability to wear a mask. It is past time for our children and teachers to see smiling faces and parents to make the decision for their children. Regarding other bills that prohibit divisive ideologies, protect our children from obscene materials, and protect fairness in school sports, the governor is supportive of these ideas and measures. However, the legislature is leading on these items and the individual bills. In terms of budget priorities, the governor put education first in his budget proposal by allocating more per student than ever before, with over $1.4 billion in direct funding this year alone. He also proposed fully delivering on the $5,000 teacher pay raise with an additional $2,000 installment in this budget. And finally, he proposed fully funding QBE. The budget legislation is continuing to work its way through the General Assembly, and we are hopeful that education will continue to be a priority. Thank you for your time today and the hard work you do for Georgia's students, teachers, and administrators. I can assure you the governor's commitment to education is unwavering. He is committed to putting students and teachers first and making Georgia the best place to live, work, and raise a family. I'm available all day today at the Capitol. If you have any questions or comments that you'd like to bring forth, the door is always open. We're happy to talk with any of you at any time. And so just let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Again, Miranda, I do want to say again, thank you for the collaboration that we have between our offices and stuff, and please extend my thanks to the governor. Again, as I've shared throughout the state, you will not find a better supporter of public education than Governor Brian Kemp. In my lifetime, I have not seen a better governor who has supported public education than our current governor. So again, thank you very much, okay?
Thank you so much, and thank all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. As we continue with the chair's report, I would call upon Ms. Finippetti to introduce our next speaker that's here to give us a few words today.
Good morning, everyone. And after hearing Dr. Wall, I realized why my parachute landed in CTAE many years ago. Very excited to have been a small part of CTAE, and thank you for your leadership that you continue to provide. I said you are the best. I know recently, we updated our economics personal finance pathway. I know that's very important. We sometimes, in this digital world we live in, maybe our students aren't getting some of the things they need to know. So personal finance has become increasingly important to us as a board. So helping students understand how to be financially successful can be the most important part, or a very important part of their school experience, to know what to do when they leave there. As Dr. Wall knows, a lot of our CTAE kids go straight into the workforce. Maybe they go to certification programs, maybe they go 2-year, we maybe go 4-year. But a lot are going to leave high school and go straight to the workforce. We believe in this, and so does our next guest, Dale Alexander, an employee benefits broker, but also a certified financial planner. Dale has studied personal finance in all of his 34-year career and believes in pouring into the youth with a lesson he has given to thousands of students and young adults, not only in Georgia, but I believe he was recently in Alabama, Gulf Shores, Alabama, talking. So he's going to give us a snapshot today of what he talks to students about. It's so compelling that I felt the need for him to speak to our board to see if this matches up in some way with our initiatives about financial success. And his father was a superintendent in South Georgia for 22 of his 31 years, so he has a background in education. But that was fun going home each day, wasn't it? Okay, Dale, I'm going to let you tell us about the talk about money.
Thank you, Tana. Thank you all for your time. So as a 30-year CFP, I've studied money all of my career. And I certainly talk to my kids about it all the time. And one night, my middle child, Grant, said, "Dad, you should tell all of our friends about this principle, this story about money." So they got them all together, all the college kids and high school kids, and it kind of went viral. And so now I've written this up and go all around the Southeast to universities and high schools talking about money. And your kids that graduate are about to leave and go make one of the greatest life decisions they will ever make in their life, and it deals with money. Now you could say, well, the person that I choose to marry is one of the biggest life decisions in my life. I would say, if we don't get money right, half of our marriages are gone. And many of the other half that make it, many of them aren't as great as they could be because of the stress and the weight and the worry of money. And it's very easy to solve. So if you will, let me indulge you with the greatest part of the talk about money. It's the bottom left of your worksheet. And I have some of these for, yes, if you will. The bottom left. Our kids are about to leave and go get their first real job. You remember that moment, that first big job where you fill out HR paperwork from a lady named Dottie. But you're going to go get a first real job. And when they get that first real job, it may be right out of high school or it may be after college, but it's ahead of them and they're going to get a first job. And when you get that first job, Here's the magic. It's the biggest check you will have ever gotten in your life. You're going from making basically nothing to 100% of the biggest number you will have ever seen in your life. And I'm telling the kids, when you get that first job check, instead of taking all of it, I want you to take 70% of it. I want you to make 70 your 100. And here's what I want you to do. Live on 70, and I want you to save 20% and give 10% of it away. Look at me. I don't care who you give it to. It's not important, and I'll tell you why later. But I want you to make 70 your 100. Here's the point. 70% of that first check is still going to be the biggest number you will have ever seen. You're at 0 practically now. And you're going to go to 70. Make 70 your 100. You'll never know that 100 is 100 if you make 70 your 100. It's relative. Your 100 is 70. And as my friend David Helton says, and here's the important point, you don't have a standard of living established yet. And whatever level you set, you accept as your standard of living, 70%, that becomes your reality. Let 70 be your 100. A future plumber in Cochran, Georgia, he said, I'm going to make 50% my 100, and he will. Now, here's the magic of this. You have one chance, our kids have one shot to get this right. Because if they take 3 of those first job paychecks, spending 100% of it, by the way, you know what the average American does of that first check? We're so arrogant and cocky about what we're going to make in the future. We get credit cards and we live on about 107% of that check. Am I right? But you're going to make 70, and they have one shot to get this right. Because if they take 3 paychecks, spending 100% of that first job check, you will never be able to back down to 70. It's over. And they will live life like most of America, which is broke, stressed, and anxious because of the weight of money. And they don't have to. Well, if they did this, Dale, what would their life look like? I'm glad you asked. Let's start with a $36,000 salary. By the way, the next slide, I show them a $12,000. But let's start a $36,000 salary. And if you live on 70% of that, you save 20 and you give 10% away. At the end of your life, you will have given away $437,000 and have $5.2 million from one decision in your life. And you become one of the wealthiest people in the world from one moment in your life, and it's ahead of them. It's behind me, it's behind you, it's behind you. It's ahead of them, and it's that simple. A $36,000 job. Why would I ever give my money away? This is what I love about this talk. Why would I ever give money away? Because I know some of you kids are going to ask that when I'm on an auditorium. I know you're asking that. Here's why. Because everything that we look at every day is telling us to get more for ourselves, to keep more for ourselves, and that the way to happiness and success is by getting more and keeping more for ourselves. It's the world's greatest lie. And we got kids dealing with depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, anger. And part of it is because everything that we're seeing is telling us to do more for ourselves. And if you want to eliminate hopelessness and despair in kids, flip around and have them build a life around giving. And here's the trick. They don't know this. It's a trick. The 10% will become more powerful in changing their life than the 20% you save and invest ever will. It's going to flip, and they will care more about giving than they ever will about saving. I want to flip the script for our kids because what they're seeing, it's a lie from the world. And I want them to start having a life of giving. The mind doesn't allow itself to feel hopeless when it's giving hope. So schools invite me to come talk to their kids. And they'll say, we want you to talk to our college prep or our STEM classes or our advanced classes, and that's great. And I'll go talk to them, and I love talking to those kids. But I want the kids that have nothing. I want the kids that have no way out, that never think they can have a thing. That's who I want to talk to. Because did this principal care what kind of family you came from? It doesn't care. Did this principal care about what kind of college level you go get? This principal does not care. It doesn't care. Did this principal care what race, creed, national origin? It doesn't care. And our kids have been told that wealth is some thin lane that only a few can enjoy, and that's a lie. It's not. The wealthy just have a plan, and I have the plan. It's not hard, but it comes in one moment in their life, and it changes everything. If I could just tell you, and I'm about a minute away from finishing, how I close the talk in an auditorium. Imagine your kids in an auditorium. Humor me for a minute. Here's what I say to them when I finish. Everybody look at me. You will remember this moment like it's tomorrow. Everybody look at me. In 40 years, here's what some of you are going to say in this room. In 40 years, remember this, and you're going to laugh when you remember this. You're going to be sitting, imagine, in a backyard, and it's beautiful grass, and there's kids running all over the place, and maybe there's a marsh or an ocean or a mountain. I don't know what yours is, but it's a big yard, and there's an oak tree with flower beds and pine straw, and maybe you're in an Adirondack chair, and there's kids all over, and one of them runs up and jumps up in your lap. And they grab your cheeks and they pull you to them. Remember this moment. Look at me. And they say this, Grandma, Grandpa, how did you do this? And here's what you're going to say. I just remember a long time ago in my auditorium, or I got a book or this lesson, and we went through it, and this guy, he said, if I would make 70 my 100, he said, everything about my life would change. He said, my marriage would change. Our vacations would change. My career would change. How my children act. He said, everything about my life would change on one decision. And I don't know why, but I believed him. And I did it. And that, baby girl, is how we have all this. Some kid in some of my auditoriums, some kid is going to say that from one moment in their life. And every kid has that moment. And by the way, if you ask the $12,000 example, they'll give away $132,000 and have $1.7 million if you started at a $12,000 salary. And nobody has $1.7 million today. It's that simple. But the world tells us it's not. And the kids that get it, the kids that have no way out, they never break eye contact with me. Come watch one. They never break eye contact when I'm done. And they walk directly up to me. And they never stop looking at me. And they go, may I have your card? And I go, do you believe this? And they go, yes, sir. Are you going to do this? Yes, sir. Are you going to do this? Yes, sir. Here's my card. Go be great. Because they just seen that kid in Cochran, Georgia. He had his head down when he came up to me and he said, I'm not going to college. I said, look at me. He said, I'm not going to college. I said, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to be a plumber. And I said, oh, you're that guy that's going to walk out of here and start making $100,000, and most of these kids are come to you applying for a job. You're that guy. He said, yes, sir. And he's the one that was going to live on 50%. It's one moment in their time. Just get me in front of just get this in front of your kids. And it changes everything from the first check forward. Imagine your life. If you had never spent more than 70% of every paycheck you ever got in your life, everything changes when you live inside financial margin. I will shut up. I've way over my 7 minutes. Sorry.
Hey, good job.
So I guess you can see why students are excited when he comes to their schools. And he does not charge to come to these schools and talk. So any of your school systems, get those juniors and seniors, freshmen, sophomores in there to come and see him, because it's a great talk. It's a great talk.
There's a way we can do this. It's online. I'd love to talk. The book comes out to it in the end of April. So just we got to get this in front of kids. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll continue with Chair's report. Does anyone have any comments, anything going on in your districts, anything you'd like to mention? Stan? No? Any good news you'd like to share?
Miss Sherry will be getting married this weekend.
That's right.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. We're getting super excited, so I appreciate all the well wishes and everything, so thank you so much.
And Miss Martha was just received an award from the her Rotary there. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Teacher of the Year banquet in LaGrange
That's right.
at Ray Wolf Lodge in April. So everybody come on down. I'd love to have you there.
That's the last.
It's the last, Saturday.
The 30th, I think. Is that right?
And our Teacher of the Year will be there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, I will.
Yeah. I'll host.
Ready to go down the water slides with y'all.
You'll have a new name too, also.
Yes, I will.
Team building water slide.
Yeah, team building waters, yeah.
Great, thank you. Stan.
Yes, first of all, Dale, thanks for being here. I've known Dale for a long time. We've worked together in the past, and this is Dale Alexander every day. This is not Dale on occasion. This is Dale every day. I also want to thank the CTAE folks for being here today. That is not my background. I yield to Ms. Petty on that, but I have a great appreciation for the work you do. I have to say a special thanks to Jennifer Butler, who's from Morgan County and represents CTAE so very well there. Along with Josh Stevens, who represents Page. He's a graduate of Morgan County High, and so I'm always proud when we can celebrate the success of the place that just like all of us are, where I live. But they still let me live there, even though I'm not working there anymore.
Jason, I'm sorry.
But I want to take a minute to express my appreciation to the General Assembly and the Governor's Office and those for the amended budget. It's not often that we are in the position that we can say that, that we're removing austerity cuts and things that have been kind of handcuffing public schools all around the state for a long time. And sometimes the work they do over there doesn't get the thanks that I think they sometimes deserve. It's difficult, but this year's been an unprecedented year, and I second what Superintendent Wood said about the support we get from the Governor's Office, but I also want to give a shout out to the folks in the General Assembly for the amended budget and also the budget that they're working on right now for FY23. And I just wanted to go on record for that. But and back to the CTAE folks and Sherry as well, because when Sherry's here, we all behave a little better. It's kind of like having your grandchildren in the room. All the adults tend to act better. Board members tend to act better when there's a teacher in the room, and when we have one that represents her profession as well as Sherry does, we're all better off for it. And so we're appreciative of the fact that you took the time to be here today, CTAE directors, because sometimes we sit here, and I've not been doing this as long as many of you others, but sometimes it seems like we're a long way from home. And your faces and your presence here and the people you represent help keep us connected. And as Kevin said this morning at the very beginning, perspective is a lot. And if you change your perspective, it changes a lot of things. And some of the things that Miranda pointed out are coming down the pike legislatively. If we look at it from two perspectives, not just the typical perspective of something's coming that may hurt us or harm us or stress us, and take a look at some of these things that we may have to make some adjustments to. If we can change our perspective on that just a little bit, this creates an opportunity for us to continue what Dr. Wall said is engaging our communities. And we're always looking for ways to do that. And your presence here today helps us engage with you. And so I wanted to thank you for the time and the work you do back home, but also the time you took to come here today. Chairman, that's me.
All right.
Well, dittos to what you just said, Stan, because that was so well spoken, and so but I think we're all thinking of the thank yous and all. This is just a personal moment, but for for Muskogee, Victoria, for you being here, and the others of you. And this is a true confession. I walk out in the audience to talk to the CTAE group, and Martha Zola's group from Hall County is here too, and I said, hey, I lived in Hall County for 13 years, and I taught school there at North Hall and at the Academy. And Cree Westmoreland said, you were my second grade teacher. I'm so glad that she recognized me.
And changed a bit.
Yeah, and so, you know, it's things do come full circle. And I just appreciate all that you all do again, and thank you, and thanks for having me share that. I knew it was gonna happen one day. I would teach somebody.
You get to be my age, they'll say, you were my second grade teacher and you're my daughter's second grade teacher.
Hadn't gotten that far yet.
Any other comments from the good of Ms. Lisa?
I'd like to thank all the CTAE people that are here. You are my people. I love Dr. Wall, wherever she is. She is in a different vernacular. She is the bomb. I love Dr. Wall. And I would just like for everybody to please remember our military men and women and keep them in your thoughts and prayers, and just pray that everything de-escalates and that our young men and women are able to come back to their families and back stateside.
Amen.
And Lisa's son has been deployed, so. put her in the prayer. And Mike's too, Mike Long's.
Any other thoughts, comments? I have one final thought in closing today, and I have really wrestled with this for a while, and I feel it's very important to say this. We turn on the news and we open the newspaper, we go to the website, and we find a variety of legislation that is proposed throughout our country related to public education. In Georgia, we've talked about this. There are myriad bills working their way through committees related to parents' bills of rights, curriculum questions and guidelines, school vouchers and education spending accounts, educators' raises, many other things. When the general public sees these issues on their local news outlet, it's, for many of them, the first time that they encounter these issues. Sadly, oftentimes it's the first time that members of the Board of Education see them as well. We are a constitutional board, one that is prescribed by law to function to improve the education of the state of Georgia. We come from varied backgrounds throughout the state. One of our duties is to educate ourselves on local, state, and national trends in public education. We're a resource for the entire state, including our state legislature and our state leaders. Too often we are ignored, and our value is overlooked, and our comments are dismissed. And that is unacceptable to me. That's why I'm forming an ad hoc committee. It will be called a Government Affairs Committee for what presumably will be the remainder of the session. The committee will be small, it'll be 4 or 5 members, still working through this, trying to figure out how to do it. But the purpose of the committee is so the state board itself will have direct communications with our partners in the legislature. The members of the committee will call on them and email them and visit them to give our input, our board's input, on education-related legislation. It'll be a proactive committee, not a reactive committee. And the committee members will report back to board members so that we know what legislation is going through, where it is, and also to help poll board members individually and find out what their opinion is on the legislation. We can leverage our relationships with legislators to make sure the communication lines, I would say, stay open, but so that they are there. But we're a team, all of us. The State Board of Education, the Department of Education, the state legislature, the governor's office. We all have the same goal, which is to improve public education in the state of Georgia. The formation of this ad hoc committee will guarantee that our voice as the State Board of Education will be heard in all matters related to education legislation in the state of Georgia. And that's all I have about that. And if there are no further comments, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned.
All right.